Okay, I'm at 6331 Clematis Drive in Dayton, Ohio, doing a sanitary lateral inspection for the purchase of a home. We're looking for any structural issues, root intrusion, anything that would be concerning for the buyer. Now our access is an outside clean out in the center of the front flower bed. And it's pretty obvious. It's got an expansion plug, like a red, used to be red, now it's sun beaten to like pink, in the top of the clean out here, right in between two bushes. And it is cast iron, which usually means that the line has a what they call a sweep on it, which would force me to only be able to go downstream. And so we won't be able to inspect the interior line in the house, just because it is restricted that way. It forces my camera to only be able to go downstream out towards the street. And so we know that the interior is cast iron. Based off of what we're, based off of what we know already. And so you'll see how there is the clean out there. But things I always like to mention with this is with cast iron on the interior, it's much more common to have what they call soft clogs. And so if you can see right there, you'll see how the line is like turning and how it like sweeps, and so my camera won't actually, you can just kind of see it where my camera's resting, but it forces my camera to like go with the flow of water, which is downstream obviously. And so sometimes even getting it to go that way is a pain in the butt. But there we go. And so, but I always like to make note of the cast iron, because it does tend to have more soft clogs, just because of the nature of how rough the interior of the pipe is. I'm going to pause the video for a second. I'm going to run some water so we can clear the lens off, so we can see a little bit better, and then I'll continue with my notes about the cast iron. Alright, so flush the toilet, and you can see it already cleared the lens up. I just flushed the toilet and ran a little bit of water through the sink. But you can see how rough the cast iron looks, and that's pretty normal, like normal condition for a cast iron pipe. But because it's so rough, what happens is things are just easier to catch, because it's like sandpaper along the bottom, so things catch easier. So when you're using things like wet wipes, which you shouldn't be using, even though they say flushable on them, those things don't disintegrate in the water like toilet paper, which is what it's designed to do. Toilet paper is designed to just disintegrate. So if it does build up, even in a toilet, that eventually it'll break down into nothing, and then continue on down with the water itself. And so with wet wipes, they'll catch, and things can build up behind them, because it takes much longer for them to break down, if they ever do. And so cast iron, like I said, it's not a bad material, but it obviously does degrade and rust. And so as you can see, this is overall in pretty good shape. This is pretty standard for what cast iron looks like. I expected the line to change to clay once it got out into the yard a little bit, but it looks like they may have used cast iron all the way out to the main, or at least off the property. And so you have a little bit of channeling in there. You can kind of notice how it's built up more along the left side, like a little wall, like mineral deposits and rust. And the main flow line is heading down the center of the pipe. And overall, the line is keeping its overall shape, which is good. That's what you're looking for, is just overall functionality. You're looking for any holes in the line. Holes will be very obvious with dirt, even though, with cast iron, you have so many dark and light spots with all the rust. And see, there we go. So this is a transition. to clay, which is I expected to happen a lot sooner. But this looks like this happened out towards where it leaves the property. And so when they build neighborhoods, they put the sewer mains in, and then send pipes. You know, if it's in the middle of the street, before they even put the road in, they put the sewer main down the road, which is probably how it is in this neighborhood based off the age. But it could be on either side of the street also. But they will put the sewer main in before the roads go in, and then put pipes running from that main over the connections over onto each lot. And then they come through, build the houses, and then they run the line out and connect. And so what they used here is they used the clay for the sewer main and the original connections, the developer did. And then when the builder came in and put the house in, they used cast iron out to that point. And so this is another common thing, a change of material, and these two materials are very, very common in this era. And clay is another good material. It doesn't degrade, so it doesn't rust or anything like that. Most of the time, the worst thing we see out of clay is root intrusion, just due to the connections that they make. And a lot of the older ones, they use like a concrete packing at the joints, and so that would shrink and then start allowing in a little bit of roots. But in this case, I think that there's not any trees close enough to even affect it if they would, and these are newer cast iron connections, and they probably have rubber at the joints. Overall, the line is looking really, really good. Looks great structurally. I said the cast iron part of it looked really good, about par for the course as far as the material and age is concerned. And here we are coming up to the sewer main. There you go. And there is the connection to the sewer main. And that is obviously the shared line out in the street, or on the other side of the street, I'm not really sure. But everything looked great. I didn't see any issues at all. That's wonderful. Again, you're always going to have those things with the cast iron back up there. And there's a few more things there as we get back up into there. But overall, I mean, everything in this line looked good. I didn't see any defects. You can see even like in this spot where it's transitioning back over to the cast iron, that camera lens is only like a half an inch off the bottom of the pipe. So with the water running, even that isn't even covering the lens on the camera, which just shows that the line is flowing freely and there are no low spots, and it has good pitch on the line. You can look in the bottom left-hand corner, and it shows a rough estimate of the angle of drop and everything on the line. So it tells you kind of how much drop is on the line. It's not perfect, especially with cast iron, because, like in this case, that's 1 degree, which is minimum. It's about 1/8 of an inch per foot. But sometimes if it's resting, it may not read 100% because there's little bumps and all that stuff in the cast iron. But getting back to the cast iron part of it, you'd also want to make sure that you always have your lint, a lint catch on your discharge on your washer, and the white coating you see around, that's a little bit of grease. You can't keep all the grease out of your line, obviously washing dishes and everything like that. But just a note as to what it is. There's not a whole lot of root or a whole lot of grease buildup or anything. It's just something to note that can happen. And so when you're dealing with some of the smaller diameter pipes with the kitchen and the sink, or the kitchen sink and the washing machine, it's just something that in general cast iron is just more, it's more prevalent to have those type of, like, soft clogs, meaning they're easy to get broken open, but sometimes you'll have a buildup of stuff. And it's not saying you'll ever have one, but it is just something to make sure that you're treating your sewer line like it was designed, and not putting a bunch of stuff down there that you're not supposed to, and it should treat you pretty well too. So especially with the low flow toilets that are installed in homes now, they work fine with PVC pipe, but with old cast iron lines, you need that extra water to push stuff down the pipe, and so it's another reason to make sure you're only flushing toilet paper and stuff like that. If you're going to use wet wipes, just throw them in the trash. But as you can see, we've pulled all the way back out, and I was very pleasantly surprised about that line. It looks really good. It's cast iron about 30 to 40 feet out, and then it switches to clay. There's no root intrusion. All the joints look nice and tight. It's got good fall on the line the whole way out. Everything looked good. I didn't see any defects at all. The line is obviously ugly. It's cast iron, so it's always going to, look rusty and stuff like that. And so, like I've mentioned a couple times, just make sure you're using it as designed, and it should work as designed. And so, yeah, nothing to report. So that's going to end the inspection at 6331 Clematis Drive in Dayton, Ohio.